Caelthra stood before the mirror in her quarters, staring at the white ceremonial dress that hung on her silver skin like a shroud. She hated it. She hated everything about this day. "You look beautiful, daughter," her mother's voice echoed in her mind. The Empress didn't need to speak aloud. None of the Valorians did. They were telepaths, connected mind to mind across vast distances. It was natural. It was right. "I look like a traitor," Caelthra thought back, not bothering to shield her emotions. Anger, disgust, and shame flowed freely through the telepathic link. Her mother's presence pressed against her mind, heavy with authority. "You look like someone who will save millions of lives. The war must end, Caelthra. We have been fighting the humans for 300 years. Both sides are exhausted." Caelthra closed her eyes. 300 years of war. 300 years of fighting beings who were deaf to the mind, who stumbled through existence in isolated silence. The humans had no telepathy. They were alone in their heads, cut off from the natural flow of consciousness that connected all civilized species. They were primitives who somehow developed weapons and ships, who somehow kept fighting despite their obvious inferiority. And now she had to marry one. The wedding hall was enormous, built hastily on a neutral station between Valorian and human territory. Half the room glittered with the crystalline architecture her people preferred. The other half was dull metal and fabric, human construction that looked temporary and cheap. Caelthra walked down the aisle, her mind touching hundreds of Valorian dignitaries who filled half the room. Their thoughts washed over her in waves of sympathy, curiosity, and political calculation. On the other side sat the humans, and she felt nothing from them. Empty, awful silence. At the altar stood Captain Marcus Chen. He was shorter than she expected, with dark hair and brown eyes that watched her approach with an expression she couldn't read. How did humans survive, she wondered, when they couldn't even know what the person next to them was thinking? Marcus wore a military uniform, dark blue with silver insignia. He stood straight, hands clasped behind his back, face neutral. Caelthra tried to push her mind toward his, seeking any crack in that wall of silence. Nothing. Just the void that surrounded all humans. The ceremony began, words in both languages, promises neither of them meant. The treaty was simple. If this marriage lasted 1 galactic year, peace would be permanent. If it failed, the war would continue until one side was destroyed. "Do you, Marcus Chen, take this woman as your wife?" the human official asked. His voice was steady, unremarkable. "Do you, Caelthra of House Valor, take this man as your husband?" the Valorian priest asked, his thoughts formal and ceremonial. Caelthra projected her answer telepathically to her people while speaking aloud for the humans. "I do." Marcus took her hand. His skin was warm, rough with calluses. She felt nothing from his mind, just the physical sensation of touch. It was disturbing, like holding hands with furniture. The reception was worse. Humans and Valorians mixed awkwardly, neither side trusting the other. Caelthra sat at the head table next to her new husband, feeling his silence like a weight. "You don't talk much," Marcus said quietly. "I'm talking constantly," Caelthra replied. "You just can't hear it." "Fair enough." Marcus picked up a glass of something amber. "For what it's worth, I didn't want this either." "Then we have something in common. You were a soldier." "Still am, probably. They just gave me a different assignment." Marcus set down the glass. "You were a diplomat. And a warrior. I've killed 47 humans in battle. I've killed more Valorians than that." He said it without emotion, just fact. "Guess we're even." She almost respected the honesty. Almost. The explosion of breaking glass made everyone turn. 3 Valorian warriors had appeared near the entrance, their minds blazing with fury and determination. Radical extremists who believed the peace treaty was betrayal. "Death to the collaborators," one shouted, both aloud and telepathically. The mental shout was like a hammer, making every Valorian in the room flinch. The three rushed forward, weapons drawn. They were fast, enhanced with combat implants, and trained from birth. Security forces on both sides scrambled to respond, but they were too far away. What happened next took 3 seconds. Marcus moved. One moment he was sitting, the next he was between Kael'thra and the attackers. His hand snapped out, caught the first warrior's wrist, twisted. The weapon clattered away. He ducked under the second warrior's blade, swept the legs, sent the attacker crashing down. The third warrior swung at his head. Marcus caught the blade between his palms, twisted, disarmed the warrior, and had all three on the ground before security reached them. Kael'thra stared. She had fought humans before. They were slow, clumsy, without telepathic coordination. This was different. Marcus had moved like water, like he knew where each attack would come from before it happened. "How did you do that?" she asked, as security dragged the attackers away. Marcus straightened his uniform, breathing hard, but not exhausted. "Do what?" "You have cybernetic enhancements. You must." "I don't." He met her eyes. "I'm completely biological. Just trained, that's all." Kael'thra reached for his mind again, pushing harder this time. Still nothing. But she noticed something else. His breathing was controlled, precise. His eyes tracked movement differently than normal humans, processing information faster. His brain activity, if she had the right scanning equipment, would probably show patterns no baseline human should have. "You're lying," she said quietly. "There's something different about you." Marcus smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We're married now. You've got a whole year to figure me out, if you can." He walked away, leaving her standing there with more questions than before. Around them, the reception slowly resumed, but the mood was shattered. An assassination attempt at a peace wedding. 3 Valorian extremists who would rather die than accept peace with humans. Kael'thra watched her new husband disappear into the crowd of humans, that wall of silence closing around him like armor. She had married him to end a war. She was beginning to suspect she had married a mystery. Her mother's voice touched her mind. "Are you all right, daughter?" "I'm fine," Kael'thra thought back. "But mother, there's something wrong with the human. Something we didn't know about." "Investigate carefully. We need this peace." Kael'thra nodded to herself. She would investigate. She would discover what Captain Marcus Chen was hiding, and when she did, she would decide whether to report it or keep it secret. The war might be paused, but the real battle had just begun. The diplomatic station was a massive ring of metal and glass, rotating slowly to create artificial gravity. Marcus and Kael'thra had separate quarters connected by a common living area. Neither spent much time in the shared space during the first week. Kael'thra used the time to investigate. She accessed Marcus's military records, medical files, everything the humans had provided as part of the treaty. All of it showed a normal human, good soldier, excellent tactician, but nothing exceptional. No cybernetics, no genetic modifications, no experimental treatments. Yet she had watched him move. She had seen what he could do. On the 8th day, she found him in the common area's kitchen. He was doing something with food, cutting vegetables with a knife, heating water in a metal pot. Cooking, the humans called it. Valorians absorbed nutrient compounds through their skin. The idea of burning organic matter and eating it seemed barbaric. "What are you making?" she asked, standing in the doorway. Marcus looked up, surprised. It was the first time she'd spoken to him since the wedding. "Stir-fry. It's a human dish. You want some?" "I don't eat." "Right, forgot." He went back to cutting. "I could make extra anyway. Some of the human staff might want it." She watched him work. His movements were precise, economical. Every motion served a purpose. You move the same way when you cook as when you fight. Efficiency is efficiency. Marcus dumped the vegetables into the hot pan. They sizzled. "What do you want, Kael'thra?" "To understand you, to know what you're hiding. Everyone hides something." He stirred the vegetables with a wooden spoon. Even telepaths must have private thoughts. We can shield our minds, yes, but we're still connected to each other. We're never truly alone. You're alone every second of every day. How do you stand it? Marcus was quiet for a moment. How do you stand hearing everyone else's thoughts all the time? Doesn't it get loud? She'd never thought of it that way. It's just normal. Same for us. Being alone in our heads is normal. He turned off the heat, divided the food onto 2 plates. We find other ways to connect. Like what? Words, touch, facial expressions, shared experiences. He picked up a piece of vegetable with 2 sticks. Chopsticks, she remembered. We tell stories, we laugh together, we cry together. We hold hands with someone we love, and even though we can't read their mind, we know what they're feeling. How? How can you possibly know without telepathy? Marcus set down the chopsticks. You really want to know? Yes. He studied her face. Your eyebrows are pulled together slightly. Your shoulders are tense. You're standing with your weight forward, like you're ready to move quickly. Your voice has a sharp edge. All of this tells me you're frustrated, maybe angry. You don't like not understanding something. Kael'thra blinked. He'd read her without touching her mind at all, just by watching. That's primitive. Maybe, but it works. Marcus ate a bite of food. We've survived this long. Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed. An automated voice spoke in multiple languages. Unidentified vessel approaching. All personnel to safe zones. Repeat. Unidentified vessel approaching. Marcus and Kael'thra ran to the observation deck. Through the windows, they could see a large ship drifting toward the station. It was damaged, scarred by weapons fire, leaking atmosphere. It's a refugee ship, Kael'thra said, reading the transponder data on a nearby console. Mixed species. They're broadcasting a distress signal. Plague on board. How many people? Marcus asked. Over 300, humans and Valorians both. The station commander, a human admiral, appeared on the screens. We're quarantining the vessel. No one boards, no one leaves. We'll send medical supplies, but we can't risk contaminating the station. Marcus's jaw tightened. There are children on that ship. The quarantine is necessary, Kael'thra said, though she felt uneasy. The plague could spread. People are dying right now. Yes, they are. She hated agreeing with the admiral, but it was logical. We can't save them. Marcus looked at her. Something in his eyes made her cold. I can. He left the observation deck before she could stop him. Kael'thra swore in her own language and followed. She found him at an airlock, putting on an environmental suit. What are you doing? She demanded. Going to help. He sealed the suit's helmet. The plague is lethal. Maybe, maybe not. He moved toward the airlock door. Kael'thra grabbed his arm. I'm your wife, for the treaty. If you die, the peace fails. Then come with me. Make sure I don't die. He opened the airlock. She didn't know why she followed him. Maybe curiosity, maybe duty, maybe something else she didn't want to name. She grabbed another suit and sealed herself inside. The refugee ship was a nightmare. Bodies everywhere. The living barely distinguishable from the dead. The plague caused seizures, fever, tissue decay. Both species suffered equally. A Valorian child lay gasping in her mother's arms. A human man convulsed in the corner. The medical bay was overwhelmed. Marcus went straight to the child. He knelt beside her, removed his glove. What are you doing? Kael'thra asked through the suit radio. Something I should have done a long time ago. He placed his bare hand on the child's forehead. The child's eyes went wide. Her mother screamed. Kael'thra watched, frozen, as Marcus's hand began to glow with a soft golden light. The light spread over the child's skin, sinking into her body. The seizure stopped. The fever broke. Color returned to her silver skin. Marcus swayed, caught himself against the wall. His face was pale, covered in sweat. How? Kael'thra couldn't finish the sentence. He moved to the next patient, the human man. Again the golden light. Again the healing. Marcus aged before her eyes, new lines appearing around his eyes, his hands trembling slightly. Stop, Kael'thra said. You're killing yourself. I'm saving them. He moved to another patient. Every person he touched, he healed. Every healing cost him. By the time he reached the last patient, Marcus could barely stand. His hair had gray streaks that hadn't been there before. His hands shook constantly. The last patient was stable. Marcus collapsed. Kael'thra caught him, dragged him back toward the airlock. The refugees they'd saved watched in silence, too stunned to speak. Back on the station, in Medical Bay, Kael'thra stood over Marcus's unconscious body. The human doctors couldn't explain what had happened. Scans showed he'd aged approximately 5 years and 2 hours. But he was alive, stable. Kael'thra sat beside his bed, staring at this human who could heal with a touch. This man who'd hidden a power that could change everything. This husband she'd married out of duty, who'd just sacrificed years of his life for strangers. "What are you?" she whispered. Marcus's eyes opened. "Tired," he said, his voice rough. "Really, really tired. You can heal people. No species can do that. Not naturally. I know. Earth's government doesn't know, do they? No. They'd turn me into a weapon, or a lab experiment." He tried to sit up. Failed. The Valorians would do the same. Kael'thra should report this. It was her duty. The Empress needed to know. The power to heal could change the balance of everything. But she thought about those children on the refugee ship, about the lives Marcus had saved, about the years he'd given up. "I won't tell them," she said finally, "but you need to tell me everything." Marcus smiled weakly. "That's going to be a long conversation. We have a year." Outside the medical bay, a junior officer walked quickly toward the communications center. He'd seen everything through the observation window. He knew people who had paid dearly for this information. The human who could heal, the power no one else possessed. He sent the message before his shift ended. The hunt had begun. Marcus recovered in 3 days. Kael'thra stayed with him, ignoring the mental queries from her mother and the Valorian court. Something had changed in her. She couldn't name it yet, but it was there, growing stronger each time she looked at the human who'd aged himself to save strangers. On the 4th day, sitting in their shared quarters, Marcus told her everything. "It started when I was 8, he said, staring at his hands. "My sister got sick, really sick. The doctors said she'd die. I held her hand and something happened. Light, warmth, and suddenly she was better." "Did you tell anyone?" Kael'thra asked. "My parents. They were scared. They made me promise never to do it again, never to tell anyone." He laughed bitterly. "I kept that promise for 2 years. Then war broke out. I saw so many people dying, both sides, and I couldn't just watch. So you joined the military. Best way to reach wounded people. I'd heal them secretly. Make it look like they were tougher than expected. Lucky survivors." Marcus met her eyes. "But it costs me. Every time I use the power, I give up part of my life. Days, weeks, sometimes months depending on the injury." Kael'thra felt something twist in her chest. "You married me knowing this would shorten your life?" "I married you hoping we could stop the war. Seemed worth any price." He smiled sadly. "Guess I'm bad at keeping secrets." "Someone saw you on the refugee ship." "Probably. They'll come for you. I know." The attack came that night. Not violent, not loud, just the gentle hiss of gas seeping through the ventilation system. Kael'thra worked first, her telepathic senses screaming danger. She shook Marcus awake. "We're being sedated," she gasped, already feeling the drug pulling at her mind. Marcus moved fast. He grabbed emergency respirators from the wall panel, threw one to Kael'thra. They sealed the masks over their faces as the room filled with white mist. The door exploded inward. 6 figures in combat armor poured through. Calethra recognized the insignia. Valorian Science Division. The ones who experimented on captured enemies, who pushed the boundaries of biology and ethics. The human is to be taken alive and intact, the leader's voice crackled through a speaker. The female is acceptable collateral damage. Rage burned through Calethra's mind. She broadcasted telepathically, a wave of pure fury that made the 3 Valorian soldiers stagger. But the other 3 were human mercenaries, immune to her mental assault. Marcus moved. He grabbed Calethra's hand. "Tell me where they're going to attack." "What?" "Read their minds. Tell me their intentions." Understanding flashed. Calethra opened her telepathic senses wide, touching the minds of the Valorian soldiers. "Left side, blade strike. Behind you, energy weapon charging. Third one is flanking right." Marcus dodged left before the blade fell, spun, disarmed the soldier behind him, kicked the 3rd attacker's knee, sending him crashing down. The human mercenaries opened fire. Calethra shouted warnings. Marcus moved like water, always one step ahead, because she could read the intentions before they became actions. Together, they fought like one being. Her telepathy and his precision combined into something greater than either alone. They won, barely. 6 bodies lay unconscious on the floor. "More will come," Calethra said, breathing hard. "Then we run." Marcus grabbed a weapon from one of the fallen soldiers. "Come on." They fled through the station corridors. Alarms wailed. Security forces scrambled. But Calethra couldn't tell if they were trying to help or capture them. Marcus led her to a docking bay, where a small courier ship waited. "You know how to fly?" Calethra asked. "I'm a soldier. I can fly anything." Marcus started the engine. "You should stay. This isn't your fight." "You're my husband. That makes it my fight." She strapped into the co-pilot seat. "Where are we going?" "Anywhere but here." The ship launched as the docking bay doors were closing. They scraped through with centimeters to spare. Behind them, the station's defenses powered up. "They're going to shoot us down," Calethra said, watching the sensors. "They'll try." Marcus pushed the ship into a dive, flying close to the station's hull, where the defensive weapons couldn't track them easily. Calethra's mind was flooded with voices. Her mother, demanding answers. The Empress's advisors, discussing options. The Science Division, calculating how to recapture their prize. And underneath it all, fear. Everyone was afraid of what Marcus represented. A weapon that could heal. A human with power no other species possessed. Something that could change everything. "My mother is broadcasting an ultimatum," Calethra said quietly. "Return you intact within 48 hours, or I'm declared a traitor to the Empire." Marcus's hands tightened on the controls. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I made my choice." She realized. Somewhere between the wedding and now, she'd stopped seeing him as a primitive human, and started seeing him as something else. Someone else. They jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading for a human colony world Marcus knew. A place where refugees from both sides lived together, trying to build something new away from the war. As they traveled, Marcus told her more about his power. It worked on any living being. It could cure disease, mend wounds, even reverse aging to a degree. His life for theirs. "I've probably given up 30 years already," he said. "Maybe more. Hard to tell." "How old are you supposed to be?" 28. Calethra looked at him. He looked 40, maybe older. The gray in his hair, the lines on his face, the way he moved like someone carrying invisible weight. He'd been aging himself since he was 8 years old. "Why do you do it?" she asked. Marcus was quiet for a long time. "Because I can. Because if I have this power and don't use it, Then all those people who died, they died because I was too scared to help. I can't live with that. Even if it kills you, we're all dying, Kael'thra. From the moment we're born, we're dying. At least this way, I die meaning something. She didn't have an answer for that. In Valorian culture, sacrifice was honored but not expected. Everyone contributed to the collective good through telepathic cooperation. No one was supposed to give everything. But humans didn't have telepathic cooperation. They had this instead. Individual choice. Personal sacrifice. One person deciding that another person's life mattered more than their own. It was inefficient. It was illogical. It was beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. They arrived at the colony world and landed in a small settlement built into a canyon. Mixed architecture, human and Valorian, pieced together like a puzzle. Children played in the streets, both species, not caring about the war their parents fled. We'll be safe here for a while, Marcus said. These people don't care about politics. He was wrong. 3 days later, both fleets arrived. Human and Valorian warships, bracketing the planet, demanding Marcus's surrender. And with them came word of what was happening across the galaxy. Both sides had learned about Marcus's power. Extremists on both sides wanted him dead before he could be used as a weapon. Moderates wanted to control him, study him, use him for their own purposes. No one, Kael'thra realized with growing horror, saw him as a person, just as a tool, a resource, a power to be exploited. Standing on the colony's observation deck, watching the warships position themselves for bombardment, Marcus made a decision. I'm going to offer myself up, he said. Tell them I'll surrender if they leave the colony alone. They'll tear you apart in their laboratories. Better me than everyone here. Kael'thra grabbed his arm. There has to be another way. You see one? She didn't. But as she stood there, holding on to this human who kept choosing sacrifice, an idea formed. Terrible, dangerous, and maybe the only chance they had. What if you healed them, she said slowly. Both sides, the leaders. Show them what you can do. Make them understand. That could kill me. Then we find another way. No, his eyes were steady. No, you're right. They need to see it. They need to feel it. He squeezed her hand. But if I die, you won't. I won't let you. She didn't know if that was a promise she could keep, but she would try. Because somewhere along the way, this arrangement had become real. This human had become hers. And she would fight the entire galaxy to protect him. The question was whether the galaxy would give them the chance. The colony's name was Hope's End. Kael'thra thought it was grimly appropriate as she watched the warships gather in orbit. Marcus had sent a message to both fleets. He would demonstrate his power on representatives from both sides if they agreed to a temporary ceasefire. The Empress agreed. Earth's president agreed. Neither trusted the other, but both wanted to see what Marcus could do. The colony's leaders prepared a meeting hall. Kael'thra spent the time exploring, seeing things that challenged everything she'd believed about the war. A Valorian woman ran a school where human and Valorian children learned together. The human children couldn't participate in the telepathic lessons, so the Valorian children learned to speak aloud. The Valorian children couldn't understand verbal humor, so the human children learned to share emotions through art. A human man and a Valorian woman ran a medical clinic together. He handled surgery and physical treatments. She used telepathy to diagnose mental trauma and emotional wounds. Together, they saved lives neither could save alone. It works here, Kael'thra said to Marcus that night. They've made it work. Because they had to, Marcus replied. They had no armies, no weapons, just each other. So they learned to cooperate or die. The rest of the galaxy should see this. They will, after tomorrow, one way or another. The next morning, explosions rocked the colony. Kael'thra's telepathic senses screamed as minds nearby winked out of existence. Dead. Dozens dead in seconds. "What's happening?" Marcus shouted over the alarms. "A battle. Ground forces from both sides." Kael'thra reached out with her mind, touching the chaos above. "Extremist factions. They're attacking military targets, but the colony is in the crossfire." They ran toward the clinic. Wounded people were already arriving. Burns, blast injuries, crushed limbs. The colony's medical staff worked frantically, but there were too many casualties and not enough supplies. Marcus didn't hesitate. He went to the first patient, a Valorian soldier whose leg was mangled. He placed his hands on the wound, and the golden light flared. "Marcus, no," Kael'thra said. "Save your strength for the demonstration. These people are dying now." His hands moved to a human child with severe burns. More light, more healing, more years stolen from his life. Kael'thra watched helplessly as he worked through the wounded. Valorian and human, soldier and civilian, adult and child. He healed them all. She watched him age with each touch. The gray spread through his hair. New lines carved into his face. His hands developed a tremor that wouldn't stop. "Please," she begged, "you'll have nothing left." "Then I'll have nothing left." He moved to another patient, a young Valorian woman missing an arm. "But they'll be alive." The healing took hours. The battle above continued, but Marcus ignored it. He focused on each person in front of him, giving them back their lives, piece by piece. Kael'thra counted. 43 people. 43 times he used his power. By the end, Marcus looked like an old man. 60, maybe 70 years old. He could barely stand. "That's all of them," the clinic doctor said, tears streaming down her face. "You saved them all." Marcus collapsed. Kael'thra caught him, lowered him gently to a bed. His breathing was shallow, his pulse weak. She'd watched him give away decades in a single day. "You're an idiot," she whispered, tears in her own eyes now. "A beautiful, stupid idiot." "Had to," Marcus breathed. "Couldn't just watch." Then something strange happened. The people Marcus had healed began to glow. Not brightly, just a faint shimmer under their skin. The same golden light Marcus had used. The Valorian woman, whose arm he'd regrown, gasped. "I can feel them. All of them. Everyone he touched." "What do you mean?" Kael'thra asked. "I can feel their emotions. Not thoughts. Not like telepathy, but feelings. Pain, joy, fear, hope." The woman looked around at the other healed patients. "We're connected." A human man with bandaged burns sat up. "She's right. I can feel all of you. It's not in my head, it's in my chest, like we're all linked." Kael'thra's mind raced. This was different from what Marcus had described. The healing itself was one thing, but this connection was something else. She reached out telepathically to the healed patients and found their minds changed. Not damaged, not altered, but opened somehow. The human patients still didn't have telepathy, but they had something else, an emotional resonance that let them sense what others were feeling. And the Valorian patients, who'd always had telepathy, now understood this deeper, wordless connection. "What did you do?" Kael'thra asked Marcus. "Don't know," he murmured, eyes closing. "Never healed that many at once." The clinic doors burst open. Both the Empress and Earth's president entered, flanked by guards. They'd been in orbit, but the battle had forced their shuttles down to the surface. Now they stood in a clinic full of people Marcus had saved. "Where is he?" the Empress demanded, her telepathic voice like thunder. "Here," Kael'thra said, standing between them and Marcus. "And if you take him, you'll have to go through me." Her mother studied her with ancient eyes. "You've changed, daughter." "Yes." The president, an older human woman with steel-gray hair, approached the bed. "We need to understand his power. It could end the war. It could also kill him," Kael'thra shot back. He just aged 30 years saving your soldiers. Both of your soldiers. The Valorian woman Marcus had healed stood up. We need to tell them. Tell us what? The Empress asked. What he gave us. What we can feel now. The woman looked at the other healed patients. Show them. As one, the 43 people Marcus had healed closed their eyes. The golden light that had been faint grew stronger. Kael'thra felt it wash over her telepathic senses. Not thought, not words, but pure emotion. Gratitude, love, understanding, pain shared and halved, joy shared and doubled. The sensation of being part of something greater than yourself, not through mental connection, but through conscious choice to care about someone else. The Empress staggered. She'd never felt anything like this. Telepathy connected thoughts, but this connected hearts. The President wiped her eyes. What is this? Humanity, Marcus whispered from the bed. It's what we are. What we've always been. Kael'thra understood then. Marcus's power wasn't just biological. It was the expression of humanity's fundamental nature. Humans lived isolated in their minds, unable to share thoughts. So they developed something deeper. The ability to choose connection. To consciously decide that another person mattered. To give of themselves for someone else. Other species never needed this, Kael'thra said slowly. We had telepathy. Connection was automatic. We never had to choose it. So we never learned how, the Empress finished. Her mental voice was quiet, almost humble. We pitied humans for their silence. We called them deaf, primitive, incomplete. We were fools, the President said. We thought strength meant weapons and ships and territory. We never understood what real power was. Marcus tried to sit up. Failed. I can do it. I can create the connection between you. But it might kill me. No, Kael'thra said firmly. We find another way. There is no other way. The battle is still happening. Extremists on both sides want this war to continue forever. The only way to stop them is to make people understand. He looked at the Empress and the President. Are you willing? The two leaders looked at each other, enemies for 300 years, each responsible for countless deaths. Yes, they said together. Outside, the battle intensified. Explosions shook the building. More wounded would be coming soon. More deaths. More suffering. Unless they stopped it now. Marcus extended his hands. The Empress took one. The President took the other. Kael'thra grabbed his shoulder, ready to pull him back if the healing went too far. Wait, Marcus said. If this works, everyone connected will feel what you feel. All your people through telepathy. All mine through whatever network we've built. Your fear. Your hate. Your hope. Everything. Are you ready for that? The Empress straightened. I have led my people for 200 years. I am ready. The President nodded. Do it. Marcus closed his eyes. The golden light erupted from his hands, brighter than before. It flowed into both leaders, then spread outward like ripples in a pond. Kael'thra felt it through her telepathic link to her people. Every Valorian in the galaxy suddenly connected not just to each other's thoughts, but to their emotions. And beyond that, to the emotions of every human Marcus had ever touched. Every person those people had connected with, spreading and spreading until two species that had been enemies felt each other's pain for the first time. Marcus screamed. The light grew blinding. His body convulsed. Stop, Kael'thra shouted. You're dying. But Marcus didn't stop. He poured everything he had into the connection. His life, his strength, his future. All of it, given freely. The light exploded outward. The first thing Kael'thra felt was silence. Not the empty silence of human minds, but the profound quiet of billions of beings experiencing the same moment together. Then came the wave. Every Valorian in the galaxy felt it simultaneously through their telepathic network. The Empress's grief for her people lost in war. The President's shame over decisions that cost lives. And underneath both, deeper than thought, came Marcus's gift. The feeling of conscious choice to connect, to care, to sacrifice for someone you'll never fully understand. Across human space, the network Marcus had built through his healing spread like wildfire. Every person he touched carried a spark of that connection. Every person they touched could feel it too. Within seconds, millions of humans experienced what their soldiers and leaders felt. The weight of war, the cost of hate, the possibility of peace. Above the colony, the battle stopped. Ships held fire. Soldiers lowered weapons. For the first time in 300 years, both species felt each other's pain. In the clinic, Marcus lay still, too still. "No," Kael'thra breathed. She pressed her hand to his chest. His heart beat so weakly, she could barely feel it. His face looked ancient, skin stretched tight over bones, hair completely white. "Marcus, stay with me." The Empress knelt on the other side of the bed. Tears ran down her silver face. "What has he done?" "What we should have done centuries ago," the President said quietly. "He built a bridge, with his own life." Kael'thra tried to reach Marcus's mind. She'd never been able to before, but now, with him so close to death, the barriers were thin. She pushed through the silence. What she found stole her breath. Marcus's consciousness was a library of moments. Every person he'd healed, every life he'd saved, stored like treasures. The Valorian child, on the refugee ship, taking her first healthy breath. The human soldier who'd lived to see his daughter again. The hundreds of people who existed because Marcus had chosen to give them his time. And underneath it all, a simple truth. Humans couldn't read minds. They lived in isolation. So they developed something else. Something the telepathic species never needed. The capacity to consciously choose connection over isolation. To build bridges through sacrifice and empathy and love. It wasn't a weakness. It was their greatest strength. "I understand now," Kael'thra whispered. She looked at her mother. "We've been so arrogant. We thought our telepathy made us superior, but we never had to work for connection. It was just given to us. We never learned to choose it." "And humans choose it every day," the Empress said, her mental voice filled with wonder. "Every conversation, every friendship, every act of kindness. They can't feel what others feel, so they actively work to understand." The President stepped forward. "We need to save him. Doctors, equipment, anything." "It won't help," a voice said from the doorway. An old Valorian healer entered, one who'd lived in the colony for decades. She'd seen things that challenged traditional Valorian medicine. "His power takes life force and gives it to others. You can't replace that with conventional treatment." "Then what can we do?" Kael'thra demanded. The healer studied Marcus. He created a network. Millions connected through his power. What if they returned it? Returned what? The life he gave them. If he shared his years with others, perhaps others can share their years with him. It was impossible. No species could transfer life force. But then, no species could heal with a touch either. Marcus had already proven the impossible was possible. Kael'thra stood. "Tell them. Tell everyone. Tell them what they need to do." The Empress closed her eyes, broadcasting to every Valorian mind in the galaxy. The President used every communication channel to reach human space. The message was simple. Marcus Chen had given his life to create understanding between species. Now, they would give back. Across the galaxy, people who'd been touched by Marcus's power made a choice. They focused on the golden connection they felt, the spark of light he'd left in them, and they chose to return it. It started slowly, a faint glow here and there, but as millions made the same choice, the effect multiplied. Light flowed across the network Marcus had built, traveling from person to person, world to world, all of it flowing back to its source. In the clinic, Marcus's body began to glow, soft at first, then brighter and brighter. Kael'thra felt the life force pouring into him, not just from those he'd healed directly, but from everyone who'd been touched by the connection he'd created. They were healing him the same way he'd healed them, through choice, through sacrifice, through the conscious decision to give part of themselves for someone else. Marcus gasped. His eyes opened. Color returned to his skin. The white in his hair faded to gray, then darker. The lines on his face smoothed. His heart grew stronger. The light faded. Marcus sat up slowly, looking at his hands with wonder. What happened? You gave everything, Kael'thra said, laughing and crying at the same time, and millions gave it back. The Empress helped him to his feet. You've shown us what we forgot, human. That power without choice is meaningless. That strength comes from giving, not taking. The President nodded. The war is over. Both fleets have stood down. For the first time in 3 centuries, we have real peace. Marcus swayed. Kael'thra caught him, held him steady. How do you feel? Like I've been hit by a ship, he admitted. But alive. More alive than I've been in years. Outside, the colony erupted in celebration. Humans and Valorians embraced in the streets. Above, the warships that had come to destroy each other began broadcasting messages of cooperation and hope. The Empress turned to Kael'thra. You protected him when you should have reported him. You chose him over your duty to me. I did, Kael'thra said, not backing down. Her mother smiled. Good. That was the right choice. Duty binds us together, but choice makes us stronger. She looked at Marcus. The treaty between our species will be rewritten, not as a political arrangement, but as a genuine alliance. You've earned that. The President extended her hand to Marcus. What you did today, there aren't words. You gave everything to show us a better way. Sloggiel, Marcus shook her hand. I just did what any human would do. We're kind of used to working for connection. Not any human, Kael'thra said softly. You. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The network Marcus had created didn't fade. It grew stronger. Humans learned to understand it, this empathic connection that let them feel across vast distances. Valorians learned to appreciate it, this conscious choice to care that humans made every day. Mixed colonies like Hope's End became the model. Human and Valorian children grew up together, learning both telepathy and empathy. The first generation to never know war. Scientists studied Marcus's power, but carefully, respectfully. They discovered it was unique to him, a mutation that had manifested in his childhood. They couldn't replicate it, but the network he'd built, the connections he'd formed, those were permanent. A gift that would outlive him. 1 year after the wedding that was meant to be a political arrangement, Kael'thra and Marcus stood in the same hall. This time, there were no assassins, no forced vows, just 2 people who'd chosen each other. Do you, Marcus Chen, take this woman as your wife? The officiant asked. I do, Marcus said. He looked older than 28, but younger than he'd been in the clinic. His hair was more gray than black. His face lined, but his eyes were bright. I really do. Do you, Kael'thra, take this man as your husband? I do, she said, both aloud and telepathically. I choose him, today and always. They kissed to thunderous applause from both species. Later, in their quarters, Kael'thra asked him what she'd been wondering for months. Do you regret it, giving up so many years of your life? Marcus considered. I'm probably 40 now, biologically. I'll die younger than I should have. That doesn't answer the question. No, I don't regret it. He took her hand. I lived those years in isolation, afraid to use my power, afraid of what people would do if they knew. Now I'm living in connection, with you, with everyone in the network. I'd rather have 40 years of this than 100 years alone. Kael'thra pulled him close. You'll never be alone again. I won't let you. Same to you. He smiled. We deaf ones are pretty good at that. Choosing connection even when it's hard. Through their apartment window, they could see the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were connected through the network Marcus had built. Choosing to understand each other. Choosing peace over war. Choosing hope over hate. One human had possessed a power no one else had. Not the healing itself, though that was remarkable, but the deeper power underneath it. To consciously build bridges. To give of yourself for others. It had always been humanity's power. Marcus had just shown the galaxy what it looked like when one person gave everything to express it. And in doing so, he changed everything. Kelthra rested her head on Marcus's shoulder, feeling both his physical presence and the emotional connection they shared. She'd married a human to end a war. She'd never expected to love him, to choose him. But that was the point, wasn't it? The choosing, the conscious decision to connect, the greatest power of all. In the garden outside their quarters, human and Valorian children played together. The first generation to grow up with both telepathy and empathy. The first generation to never know isolation or division. The future they'd built with sacrifice and choice. The future Marcus Chen had given his years to create. It was, Kelthra thought, worth every moment.